Good afternoon, everyone who are there in the class. Abdul, Akash, Aman, Asis, Chunchun, Chandan, Golu, Yotirani, Kiranmay, Kundan, Mamta, Maksud, Prabhat, Pradyumn, Rakhal, Shivam, Suvam, Sumitra. Okay, so good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
ma'am.
Good afternoon. So today we are going to discuss about communication barriers. In our previous class, we discussed about verbal barriers, right? In our previous class, we discussed about verbal barriers or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Then Today we are going to discuss about non-verbal barriers, listening barriers, psychological barriers and miscellaneous barriers and how to overcome those barriers. Today we will discuss in detail. Okay. So, non-verbal barriers, as I told in our previous class, that barriers are obstacles that come in the way of our communication, which creates obstacles, which prevents the desired outcome of our interaction or communication. Now, non-verbal barriers, there are some awkward gestures which can create barriers. Like, let me give you some example. If you are raising your eyebrows while communicating with some other person, that suggests that you are not convinced about the information that the communication has shared. Right, when we raise our eyebrows, when we are not convinced, we have some doubt regarding something, or we are not convinced, then we raise our eyebrows, right? So raising eyebrows and some other gestures like rolling eyes and quick movements of the eyes or slow movement of the eyes, or even flashing eyes or rolling eyes. So these are all some of the examples of awkward gestures which can create barriers. So you have to use appropriate gestures while communicating with some other person. And non-verbal communication we will discuss in our next class or some other class, but we will definitely discuss about non-verbal communication. Then you will be able to understand what are the appropriate postures you should use while communicating with some other person. And non-verbal communication is very important when you will go for an interview, right? So it's an important topic and we will definitely discuss. Now, listening barriers. Okay, I told so many times that try to be a good listener, try to be an active listener. Listening is very important. If you are a poor listener, then poor listening can results in incomplete, incorrect, inconsistent responses. Suppose you don't listen well to some other person, you don't listen well to other people, then what will happen? Then you will not be able to understand the message the speaker wants to convey, and you will not be able to give response accordingly. So at first you have to listen well to other people, and listening requires concentration, patience, focus, right? And we all aspire to be speaker, but not necessarily all of us crave to be a listener. Yes, we all want to be a good speaker, right? We give concentration on how to increase fluency, right? But we never give importance on listening skill. But listening is also very important. We have to be a good listener. And what's the reason of poor listening skill? Because suppose we are attending a meeting or conference or some oral presentation, then what we do, actually we are waiting for our turn, when our turn will come, and then we will start speaking. That's why we don't listen well to the communicator or speaker. We are waiting for our turn to speak, right? But it can result into poor listening skill. So try to be a good listener. Speaking is obviously important, but listening is also important. Okay, sorry. Now, psychological barriers. Okay. uh, Psychological state of psychological state of mind of the speaker can influence communication. Like, suppose if we are angry or stressed, we will not be able to communicate effectively, right? If we are feeling very angry, or very stressed, then we will not be able to communicate effectively, and this can create a barrier. So psychological state of mind can cause barrier to communication. It can affect the process of communication also. Okay. Now there are some miscellaneous barriers, like rigid attitude. Yes, rigid attitude or stubborn attitude. What is communication? Communication is all about sharing or conveying ideas, thoughts and emotions, attitudes and all. So it's about sharing and conveying something. But if we remain stubborn, if we remain rigid, then it can lead to a failure of communication. So we should always convey our emotion, convey our ideas, our thoughts. We should share. We should not be so rigid. It can create a barrier. Okay. Now, distrust, threat or fear. Okay. Let me explain. Um, Suppose you are not a trustworthy person, then what will happen? If you always, what happen, always we share our ideas or thoughts to some trustworthy person. If a person is not trustworthy, then we will not share our thoughts with that person, right? So distrust can also be a barrier to communication. And fear and threat. Okay, suppose uh, you are fearful about something, then you will not share your ideas. Let me give you a real life example. Like suppose a staff or a subordinate. So suppose a subordinate has been punished for presenting or telling a true fact but not favorable. Okay, then what will happen? From the next time, that staff will not share any kind of true facts which is unfavorable. Thus, fear acts as a barrier. Because of fear, because the staff is fearful to express his thought, because already he has been punished earlier. So from the next time he will not share his thought because he is fearful. So fear can also be a barrier to communication. And threat, if you feel threatened, you will not express your emotion or thoughts or views. So distrust, threat or fear, these things can be barrier to communication. Now, premature evaluation of a message. Yes, you know, premature evaluation of a message, I mean that sometimes we, the human beings, it is our tendency to jump to a hasty conclusion without judging or analyzing the fact. We don't analyze the true facts, we don't judge what is actually happening, and we just jump to a conclusion. That means we don't analyze properly but take a decision. That is premature evaluation of a message. That means the message is not evaluated properly. Suppose a speaker is saying something, so you have to understand what the speaker wants to say. You have to evaluate what the speaker wants to say. You have to evaluate the message of the speaker, then take any decision or then show your reaction. So at first you have to evaluate the message. Don't take any kind of decision without analyzing facts or without evaluating the message. Okay. Before going to remedies, I would like to repeat the verbal barriers once again. Okay. Verbal barriers: lack of proper planning, that is, you should have a proper planning before you speaking or writing. Sometimes without any planning, we just start speaking or start writing. At first we have to we have to think. We should have plan what to say, what to write. So we should have proper planning before speaking or writing, and lack of proper planning can lead to leads to misunderstanding or miscommunication or misconceptions also. So you should have proper planning. Wrongly encoded message, already discussed in our previous class, but instead I just repeat. If you yes, wrongly encoded message, that means you have to encode the messages properly and don't use hard words. At first, before using, yes, you can use obviously hard words, but before using hard words, you have to remember the receiver's background, to whom you are speaking, right? The listener, or who is participating in the process of communication. So you have to understand the receiver's background and the level of knowledge or language proficiency, and then you can use the words. Suppose you are using a very technical term to your non-technical workers, they will not be able to understand all those technical terms. No, they can't understand. So you should not use those technical terms to your non-technical co-workers, right? So you have to at first understand the receiver's background and level of knowledge, and then use those words. Otherwise, if you are using some technical terms or hard words, then they will not be able to understand, then misunderstanding can be created. So avoid using those words. And already I had given some examples of such a situation in our previous class. I hope you can remember. Now, semantic gaps means distortion of messages. You have to convey messages completely and properly. Differences in perception of message, that is, we all think differently. We all have different perception of thinking. I will explain some concept from another perspective. So to me, suppose something is right to me, so it may be wrong to you, because you are analyzing from your perspective and I am explaining from my perspective. So it depends on the perception of message, and the solution is you have to communicate from different perspective. That is, you have to verify the matter from different points of view, and then you have to then you can come to a conclusion. Okay, so these are verbal barriers, and non-verbal barriers we have discussed. Listening barriers, psychological barriers, miscellaneous barriers we have discussed. Now, remedies. Okay, if you want to make your communication effective, you have to minimize those barriers. There will be obstacles, definitely there will be obstacles, there will be barriers, but you have to overcome the barriers. You have to minimize the barriers. And how is it possible? There are some ways. Whenever you are speaking, you have to speak with clarity and not connection, actually conviction. So whenever you are speaking, you should convey your message very clearly. Listen attentively to others. Always listen attentively to others. Yes, speaking is important, but listening is also important too. So always listen to others very well, listen to others very attentively. Understand others' emotion. You have to understand what the other person wants to say. Then only you can respond. Maintain openness, that means be expressive. Always express your thoughts, your opinions, whatever you think, so you should express. Emphasize major ideas. Yes, you should emphasize major ideas, especially at your workplace, when you will not get enough time to convey message elaborately or to explain all the concepts. Then in that situation, you have to emphasize major ideas or important ideas. You have to be precise in that time, and you have to emphasize major ideas which are most important, and you have to avoid the irrelevant things. And maintain transparency. Yes, always maintain transparency. That means whatever you are saying, you should say very clearly, so that the receiver so that the receiver may understand you, what you wants to say. Okay. Now, I want to hear from all of you what you think regarding communication barriers and remedies. From your real life experiences, whenever you see any kind of communication barriers is happening, so you can share with all of us here in this class, and how can we overcome those barriers. If you want to add any other point, so you can share. All of you participate in the class, just share your experiences. Subham, Abdul, Akash, Ankita, Chandan, Chunchun, Hani, Yoti, Kiranmay, Kundan, Mamta, Maksud, Rahat, Nandan, Nikhil, okay, Om Sundar, Piyush, Prabhat, Pradyumn, Rahul, Rakhal, Shivam, Subham, okay, Subham, okay, Sumitra is also there. So there are 28 participants, very good. So share your experiences. Or you can also ask if there is any doubt regarding any point, or if you want to add any other point, or if you want to share any experiences. Okay, Subham Kumar from EC. Okay, Subham, do you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Say.
Ma'am, when we communicate or when we talk to anyone, any
Okay.
person,
Huh?
eye contact is very much important.
Yes, of
So
course.
I think this much will include.
Okay, very good. So whenever you
Thank you, ma'am.
communicate with some other person, you should maintain eye contact. Yes, eye contact is very important. If you avoid eye contact, this can also create a barrier to communication. Very good. Any other point? Okay. So Akash, yes, Akash, say.
Lack of confidence is also matter most in Viva.
Confidence. Yes, of course. So you should be confident. You should be confident enough whenever you are communicate with some other person. Self confidence is very much important. Yes, you should be confident whenever you are going for an interview. Very good.
Ma'am, we should use accuracy word with most valuable word.
Yes, who is saying this? Piyush.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Piyush, please
Ma'am,
repeat. You should.
we should use accuracy.
Accuracy. Okay.
Confidence. Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, language barrier is also there. Sometimes we don't know the language of the local people,
Hmm.
so it's become uncomfortable for us to uh, talk to them.
Okay, so yes, language barrier. At you will face language barrier because you have to work with so many people and they are from different cultures. Maybe they are using different languages. So language barriers you have to face. Now tell me how to overcome language barrier. Suggest some remedies.
Ma'am, we can reduce this barrier by learning some commonly used words in
Oh,
their languages.
okay, so common words. Okay, you can use common words. Any other solution?
If we do not know the language properly,
Hmm.
completely,
Hmm.
then we sense of humor is also important to understand what he telling.
Okay, sense of
Yes,
humor.
ma'am. Sign language can also take place.
Okay, sign language. Okay.
If this all things will not work, then we can Google it.
Mm, okay.
Ma'am, we can use Google Translator.
Translator. Yes. Okay. Suppose if you are working across international offices, then you have to work with people from different cultures. In that case, you can take the help of a translator also. So that it can fulfill your needs. Okay, another way is whenever you are explaining some complicated concepts, then you can take the help of pictures and diagrams for explaining. Suppose uh, if there is language barrier and other people can't understand your language, in that case, and if you have to explain some very critical concepts or some hard concepts, then you can take the help of pictures and diagrams, that means some visual methods for explanation. And you can repeat also. Sometimes suppose someone is saying something and we don't understand what he is saying, or some words we have some confusion regarding some words, so simply the solution is just simply ask. It's not possible that we know everything. No, just ask them what's the meaning of those words. Any other solution? Any other solution or any other point? Or you can share your experience whenever you are facing this kind of language barriers and how you can overcome. So you can also share with all of us. Say something, all of you. um, who is there? Ankita, you can say something. Yoti, Kiranmay, participate in the class, all of you. You can also ask if there is any doubt regarding any point. I will explain.
Language barrier में मैम to speak thoughtfully.
Yes, Abdul, you are not audible properly. Yes, Abdul,
Language variable में to speak thoughtfully.
speak thoughtfully.
And as we all know that action speaks louder than words. So to make our communication more understandable to the listener, we can use some actions also. That if we are facing language problem, the listener who are sitting there and we are having the language barrier, so we can use their accents and with the help of that accents, they will be able to understand our communication.
Actions means, Ankita, what kind of actions? You mean gestures?
Then, ma'am, just like that, we can play a short drama for so that this type of to make them understand.
Okay, okay, okay. Huh. Give some more examples. Actions.
Like if there is any topic related with the environment and we have to make a group of people understand that environment is very important for us, then we can play a short drama there. We
Okay.
can we can show a short film, we can make a short film, and with the help of presentation also we can explain that this is not a very good activity, and we can make them understand that earlier our past people were also there who just started the Chipko movement at that time. So we can also move forward this time also. And since our environment is so much polluted, so we cannot stop it suddenly, but we can minimize its effect.
Okay. Okay, very good point.
Ma'am, but this leads to so many wastage of times.
Yes, Akash?
Ma'am, but this leads to wastage of time. Sometimes it is not fruitful.
But that can be a way to stop this barrier. We can stop this barrier by this time of activities also. Yeah, it will take time, but they will become able to understand the thing that you want to share with them.
Okay. So, in our next class, I will conduct GD. So, you can suggest some topics. Which topic you want to discuss? Topic for GD? Social media or education system, we already discussed. So social media you can, or women empowerment, or online education, or some other topic you can suggest, all of you. What happened? Just suggest the topic. Which topic you want to discuss in our next class? Subham is saying social media. So everyone agree? Social media, a boon or curse? Okay. That means you have to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of social media. What are the advantages, and there are obviously some disadvantages also. And finally we have to conclude that whether social media is a boon or a curse for the society.
Ma'am,
Okay, so
ma'am, in GD, can we, ma'am,
yes, Akash.
ma'am, in GD, can we speak against the topic?
Yes, is a topic for GD. Okay, okay, then
No, ma'am, can we speak against that topic?
yes, you can.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously you can say whatever. If you want to say something against the topic, you can say. Okay, okay, then thank you everyone.